This is All Ears. I'm Everett Hopfner. My guest this week is Luis Ramirez, a Mexican pianist and composer based in Brandon, Manitoba. Since moving to Canada 2 years ago, Luis has embraced his new surroundings with an open mind and generous spirit. Luis's natural musical curiosity has pushed him in a number of new directions. From his early foundations in a Doors cover band, he now regularly performs with a Latin music ensemble while completing graduate studies in classical piano and experimenting with composition. Luis is incredibly passionate about his craft and has garnered terrific support from friends and fans in Canada and Mexico. Here's our chat. Luis, I've always known you as a composer and a pianist. Have you always channeled your musical energy in both of those directions?
Well, as a composer, I actually don't have a lot of experience. I wouldn't say I have a career in composition. I basically started having lessons until I came here to Canada 2 years ago. I've written before. I wrote my first piece, which was a string quartet. It was for a competition back in my hometown, Aguascalientes, in Mexico. It didn't win, but it was crazy fun to just do it and try to do some stuff with 4 instruments. So I didn't have any background in composition. I basically just listened to a lot of music. So that was
Luis, I did not know that about you. I thought you've been composing for quite a while now.
No. Yeah, that's basically what I have. And I never had composition lessons until Carave. He's a teacher here at the university. So basically, I came to Brandon and I was doing my piano stuff. But at the same time, I was like, well, I have this string quartet, could you have a look? And I asked him. And it was extremely helpful. I mean, first of all, to have an insight from an academic point of view. And so he helped me a lot with that string quartet. He basically told me to rewrite it, but that was okay because it was very, very poorly written at that time. So the interesting thing is that my first year here, I didn't have constant lessons. I basically had like 2 or 3 revisions during the whole year.
Mm-hmm.
But next year was the same competition for the string quartet in Aguascalientes. So I decided to try the second one. So I wrote that over the summer of 2013. And I sent it. I did not get first prize, but I got first mention, which is basically like second place.
Uh-huh.
So that was very exciting because it meant that they were going to perform it around Mexico, and that
cool.
was thrilling. Yeah, it was just I was very enthusiastic about it, and I was very happy with it, and I had a lot of help by Dr. Carre, and it sounded very nice because it's a completely different thing to have MIDI instruments and to have actual humans playing the instruments. So
No
it was
kidding.
my first experience of my music being performed. It was in like September 2013 when they first started performing it. So I was very pleased with that, and it was my first piece that I would consider like part of my offspring,
Sure. Luis, I totally didn't realize that about you. And now I'm really curious because, I mean, something I have gleaned about you as a pianist is that you also, I mean, you do play a lot of traditional repertoire and a good mixture of contemporary music in there too. But I get the sense that you just like to sit and play and improvise and just experiment. I get the sense of that about you. Is that fair?
You're so correct. Yeah, I mean, basically my compositions start always as an improvisation of me in the piano. I struggle with the fact that I have to put it in paper. For me, the ideal thing would be just to improvise and perform like that, and I really like that. It's one of my favorite things to do. I've never studied improvisation with anybody. It's just mostly what comes out of the combination of listening to a lot of music and having played piano for a long time and willing to compose. It's just basically trying to get music on the fly, trying to do something about it. So that's how my compositions start, and I must say that the process, the hard process for me, is to give it shape, to
Sure.
put it in a nice mold and make it presentable. So
Has that drive to improvise always been part of your playing, or did that start years into your piano playing, or?
I never really thought of that. I think it started, basically before that, the only few improvisational situations that I had was because back in Mexico, around 2012, 11, me and my friends, we got together and made a tribute to the Doors. So
Okay.
we just to play a lot of their music, and I learned the solos the way they were supposed to be played. Like the trying to be as true to the Ray Manzarek solo, but the rest of it was mostly improvisation, and so I liked a lot to do that. I like to just basically give it a try and see what happened if I mix this scales with this, and that was sort of my own stuff. And so important to note is also that my first approach to harmony in any way was with jazz harmony.
Uh-huh.
So that was quite an interesting year. It was when I was 15, and it was a point of my life where I was deciding whether I wanted to keep doing classical, or maybe I was interested in something more pop or contemporary in the way of jazz, or like in a versatile group or something like that. So I went into this institute in Aguascalientes, and I started learning harmony, not with the traditional 1-4-5, but with the 2-5-1 of jazz, and with the added sevens and the diminished chords and all this cool funky stuff. So that had an incredible influence in my compositions, and I must say that it still has.
Can we talk about first steps? I remember this summer, you performed First Steps in Casa Maggiore, and
Uh huh.
you told us all to go sit on the left side of the audience because there was a surprise in store for us. Can you just talk first about what the score looks like of First Steps?
Oh, yeah, for sure. The pitches are approximate. Well, I have a few specific pitches, like 4 or 5 of them. The rest of them are approximate pitches. So I just put a diagonal line, like between 3 lines of the staff, to kind of indicate that it's any note among those. It's all played on the white keys. It's
Hmm.
all played with pedal throughout, and it's all played with your hands upside down. So you have to play with your nails. The fact that you're playing for the first time with your nails, and the fact that that itself sounds so delicate and so naive and just so very soft, it makes it a very nice combination of both aspects of the music together in one concept, which is why I called it First Steps, because it's like the first steps of the nails giving in the piano, and at the same time the music that they produce has that tenderness of it being like a very primitive conception of trying to learn to walk, like a baby deer. That's what I imagine, like Bambi trying to learn to walk, and just very tender and very soft. So I like that piece because of that, because the concept fits very well with the music.
Uh-huh. And I think we're hitting on something else in your music, which I find quite endearing. It's the playfulness aspect of it. Certainly the visual sight of going to a concert and seeing a pianist walk on stage, bow, sit down, and then play with their hands upside down is such a shock, and it's quite funny as well. There's a kind of immediate playfulness to that. And also in your personality, Louis, like you love to make little jokes and kind of sneak up on people, and like there's a real aspect of playfulness, not only in your music but also just in your general approach to life. It seems.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, I can't do without humor. It's what has been my main characteristic, at least that I can say of me, that I am happy with my sense of humor and the capability of making others laugh. I really enjoy that, and the fact that I can make someone else smile is by itself very rewarding. So if I can include that in my music, of course, I'm always gonna strive for that as much as possible.
That's wonderful. One more thing about your compositions before we move on to piano. You also have this piece, Within. That's also a fully electroacoustic piece, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Do you want to talk a bit about that piece?
It's a very fun piece as well, speaking of that, because I recorded it only with sounds of myself. I did it with a microphone and my body, basically. So
Now, without getting too personal or too embarrassing, can you reveal some of your sound sources?
Okay, well, there's a lot of mouth squeaking of lips, and I just love doing that all the time. And so I do stuff like and it starts involving a little more moisty sound, so I'm not gonna go further into that. But but yeah, it was basically that, and so I was having so much fun because I was recording sounds and then editing and then recording more sounds and then putting it together. And so, for example, I sampled my whistle and then created my whistle in every pitch, and then that's how I created the harmony.
Oh, okay.
So I was just messing around and playing with some harmonies as well, and you can hear that, like, it sounds like it's some sort of synthesizer, but it's actually just my whistles in every pitch. So that was very fun, and I remember that I wanted to record my heartbeat, and the electroacoustic studio is very small. Mm-hmm. So all I could do was just run around the computer like 10 times to get my heart moving, and then I would just go quickly to a computer, press record, and put the mic in my heart and just record whatever I got out of that. So it was a very fun piece to write.
Do you have new works on the go, new pieces you're working on?
Yeah, so this is something I really wanted to mention because this semester what I've been working on is trying to figure out a system of notation without depending on rhythm. I basically give you pitches, and whatever rhythm you want to play, you give to me. I've struggled so much with that because it was for a piece that I'm writing for the Brandon University New Music Ensemble. Mm-hmm. But that search for that led to so many other discoveries. I wanted to write a piece that is just one single score. That's all it is. But each interpretation of it's gonna vary. It can be for any instrument. Mm-hmm. So what I'm planning, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Eric Whitaker's piece or project. He made this thing where he created a virtual choir in where
yes, I've seen this.
Yeah, so he creates he writes this piece and then he puts it online so that anyone in the world can record their part, and then he just puts them together, Yes. And so it looks nice, and you technically get like a 20,000 people choir, Right. I wanted something similar. I plan to do an online project where you can get the score, record your own interpretation, and then upload it. And the more videos get uploaded with people around the world, the more interesting it gets, because then the interaction of one instrument to the other becomes more clear and much more interesting than just having a few instruments. So it's gonna create a unique piece every time you select different instruments. The important thing about this is the more recordings I get, the more people collaborate, the bigger the possibilities are. The more the combinations are possible. Yeah, that's sort of what I have coming right now.
Let's talk a little bit about Luis the Pianist. You've been playing piano a lot more than you've been composing over your musical career.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's talk about your workload now. You are heading into which semester right now?
I'm in my second semester of my first year of master's degree. So right now I'm doing a double major. I'm trying to do piano composition. I've been developing quite a lot the last 2 years, just coming here, and not even just because of Selyakov, my teacher, but because of interaction with other pianists. My development in piano increased a lot just by learning from them. It's so indispensable to bounce ideas of each other and to listen to each other. It's just like peer reviewing an essay or something like that. It's the same for piano. You can listen to each other, give ideas, give feedback, and it helps so much in the development as musicians, just to share it.
Absolutely. No, I agree with you wholeheartedly. Something else that you do as a pianist that I don't know anybody else who really does this, Luis, is that you've collected quite a repertoire of Mexican composers.
A little bit. I try to, you know, I feel obliged to do it just because I come from there, and I can't say that I do as much as so many people back there still do. Like there are a lot of people back in Mexico that devote their whole lives to just finding Mexican music. So I cannot say that I do it in the same fashion, but at least I do my part as a Mexican to try to bring it and to give some exposure of it to Canadian audiences, and if possible the rest of the world. I had a Mexican contemporary music recital back in September last year, and it was very, very nice because it was with collaboration of a very close friend of mine, who is a composer, and he studies in a composition school. So it was all student pieces and teacher as well, that were performed here. So I mean, what a great way to give them exposure over here, and for me to share this with pianists that don't really know much about Mexican contemporary music. It's just something that you don't really see a lot. So for me, it was a great opportunity to collaborate in that aspect, to from my point of view and from their point of view. So it was a very nice collaboration.
Luis, in addition to the other projects we've already covered, I think we'd be remiss if we didn't mention your continuing work with the Son Latino band in Brandon.
Yeah, that's that's the point where I have the most fun as in piano playing. Son Latino is something that was such a surprise for me. Son Latino is basically a Latin music band here in Brandon. It's from musicians from here, but it was started by Jaime Chinchilla, who is from Colombia. So it has a lot of it's Latino influence, and it was such a great discovery for me because I heard this music all my life. It's the music that it's always played in weddings and social events. It's there all the time and very familiar with it. But the first time I tried to play it, it was extremely hard. It was actually very embarrassing because as a Latino, you think that, oh, he probably knows how to do it. But it was very hard for me. It was such a complexity of rhythms and syncopations, and just trying to be together with other four percussion instruments, trying to do all different rhythmic patterns. It was such a complex thing to put together, and it took me quite a while, but I was so curious about it, and I was so intrigued that uh, I practice a lot, and now it's very fun, because it's every Sunday we rehearse. It's a completely different interpretation. It's like jazz in that way, that every time it's gonna be different. I just have a chord chart, and every time I play it, it's a different feeling. Because basically for salsa, what you do is play a constant rhythmic pattern, but within that you can fit an infinite amount of possibilities, in chord position, chord syncopation, whether you want it faster or slower. It's such a playground for me, and especially to explore new compositional possibilities. It's such a treat to have that in my uh, busy schedule as well.
Luis, I think it's time for the Mr. Rogers Memorial People Are Fantastic moment of joy. Could you tell me about somebody who's helped you get where you are today?
Definitely. I must say that one of my biggest influences was my friend Jesse Plessy. He before him, I didn't have any exposure to contemporary music. I had very seldom attendances to concerts and stuff that was presented in Mexico, but it was almost nothing. I was so pleased that I had someone to share all these experiences and all these new sounds, basically. Because for example, he introduced to me the whole minimalism movement, and at that point, I didn't even know that there was such a thing. I mean, I've heard the music, but I didn't know it was music.
Mm-hmm.
And he introduced me to some of the most important pieces that I've heard, and most influential as well. And if you ask me today, what kind of composer I am, I would definitely put minimalist in that list, because it was such an impact in my life, and so I owe it all to him. And not only that, but just the conversations that I could have with him. It was such a very fulfilling, very interesting conversation, very and intelligent conversations that I couldn't have with anybody else. So at least for the year that he was here, he was one of the key factors that influenced me, and that inspired me to move and to develop. So
That's
I
really
would
great.
put him. Yeah, I would put him there.
That's wonderful, Luis. Luis, unfortunately, we're very quickly running out of time on the podcast, but I would love to just get a quick perspective on your time this past summer at the Casal Maggiore International Festival in Italy. What did you take away from that experience?
Oh, it was such a great experience. Mostly because of the people. I don't know why, but I always enjoy being near people that is older than me. People that are in the same experiences. Like they're building their careers as pianists, and they're doing the same sort of things, doing festivals, doing lectures, all these things in common that we have. It was such an eye opener for me to learn from them, and to share experiences, and to be influenced by them, and to get suggestions of them. And it's such a rewarding thing to get this sort of feedback from people that are older than you, the people that have been there.
Hmm.
So I really like that, and all the concerts were tremendous. Knowing the level of European music, it's phenomenal. It's something that I've heard of, but I've never experienced in person. So I was delighted to listen to such wonderful violinist, pianist, all the faculty. It was very nice.
That's great. And I think, I saw this too. It's a recurring pattern with you, Luis, is you put yourself in these situations, but you invest in them wholeheartedly. Your natural curiosity just takes over, and this is just how you work. And I've seen this happen now a number of times now, and it's just been great to see somebody go in with such curiosity and such compassion and such genuine interest in getting as much from every experience that they can. So that's what I've taken out of spending that time with you, and I really, really enjoyed it.
Oh, thank you. No, I enjoyed you a lot too. It was such a treat.
Luis, it's such a joy to talk to you. Good luck with everything coming up, and thank you so much for talking to me today.
Oh, thank you, Everett. I wish you the best. Thank you so much for involving me in this.
My pleasure, of course.
Take care.
Talk to you later. Okay, that is it. You have been listening to All Ears, the little podcast that could. You can hear Luis performing his utterly charming piece, Paraprosdokia No. 1, behind me right now. Luis is a prolific YouTuber. Visit everetthopfner.com for links to Luis's YouTube channel and information about all of my guests. You can follow me and the show on Twitter at evhopf. Every time you like, tweet, share, or comment on All Ears, you help emerging artists reach a wider audience. If you're enjoying the show, please recommend it to a friend, and consider leaving a rating or review in the iTunes store. As always, thank you so much for listening. All Ears will be back in 2 weeks' time.